Hit the lights!
You've discovered the Halfwatt podcast. We want to educate and entertain by tapping into the most trusted source of new technology, the ones installing and innovating it. You, the tradespeople that build from the ground up. Join us as we talk with industry leaders, veteran contractors, and even some young blood.
Welcome aboard. And today we're going to be doing a roundtable with my friend Tyler Clausen.
Hello.
What's up?
This is, the second time I've been on?
It is the second time you've been on, and welcome to 2023.
Yeah, man.
How was your...
It's great. I'm a Dungeons and Dragons nerd, and the world of D&D is exploding right now. It's pretty crazy.
What kind of bat squeeze is this? Tell me about Dungeons and Dragons, because I don't know much about it.
So,
are there real dragons? That's my first question.
Yeah, obviously there's real dragons. No. Dungeons and Dragons, it's a game that's been around since the 60s. It's an RPG. Basically, you roll dice and...
That's not rocket-propelled grenade. That's something different, right?
RPG? Yeah. Role-playing game.
Got it.
It's technically a tabletop role-playing game, TTRPG, if you want to sound super nerdy. Basically, you pretend to be an elf or a dwarf or something, and then the dungeon master, the referee of the game, says, all right, there's a dragon, and you say, all right, my dwarf is going to attack the dragon, then you roll dice to see if it works. You know, that's super
Is that where you got like the
breakout.
12-sided die?
That's exactly right, yeah. D&D uses 20-sided die.
20-sided
That's their big one. 12-sided die would be used for like a war axe or something like that if you're doing damage.
No kidding.
Yeah. Now, I've got it all memorized. I've been playing for 20 years. 20 years I've been playing this game.
Honestly, the only time I've ever seen it was on Big Bang Theory, where every once in a while I'd catch little pieces of it, and I'm like, that, because one of them would narrate.
Really play up the nerdiness in that show, but it's not off from how it actually goes. The other big one is Stranger Things. Lots of people talk about Stranger Things.
I've only seen a couple of episodes of that.
Yeah. And then there's shows that have have been very popular for years now. Critical Role is the big name.
Really?
It's like the NFL of Dungeons and Dragons.
Huh.
You watch people play D&D for 4 hours. And it's
no kidding
amazing.
Okay, I might have to look at that, because I've watched a couple like poker games and stuff, and I'm going, I can see. I'm not a huge Texas Hold'em fan.
Sure.
I'm more of a standard poker fan, but I could see people getting into strategy and how you're like psyching out your
and it's a lot of role
stuff.
play. The Critical Role is really popular because they're all actors and voice actors. They're people from like video games and anime. So when they do their dwarf, it's all right. Let's do. Like they're getting.
Dude, you do that well.
Thank you. I'm a
You're
podcaster.
A dwarf?
That's what I do. No, not a dwarf.
You're a podcaster.
I'm a podcaster. I do voices.
Well, man, you're in the right place, because that's what we do.
Yeah. But so all that is great, and like there's been this renaissance in Dungeons and Dragons and tabletop RPGs where people make a living writing stories for modules that people can buy and play, and people 3D print minis for the games. And it is if you can find a niche and get a following, you can make a lot of money.
I never thought about that. People make money writing
stories. In fact, my book, The Penny Lich, that I self-publish, it is based off of a campaign that I started playing years ago, and we kind of stopped, and so I was like, I love this story, so I'm going to keep writing the story. So I kind of got rid of all the D&D stuff for legal reasons, kept the fantasy ideas that I wanted, and just started writing books out of it. So people do that too all the time. It's amazing.
This is whole subculture I know nothing about.
So what's happened is all of this stuff is created because Wizards of the Coast, which is the company that owns Dungeons and Dragons, Wizards of the Coast 20 years ago came out with what's called the Open Game License, OGL, and they basically said, you're free to make whatever content you want using our mechanics, and you can do whatever you want with it. So Critical Role makes a show out of it. Arcane Library, she is a person that writes modules.
How do they make money? They just market?
Well, they put out their own books, and you can go buy the core books and their adventure books and stuff. But they wanted to cultivate a community of creative people.
So they don't really care if you use their stuff. right? You have to mention their name or anything like that. Just follow the.
And
the
most of them, you have to
licensing.
mention the OGL, the open gaming license,
which is fine. Yeah. So they're sharing that information.
Mm-hmm.
You get all these people involved in it,
Yeah.
and it's not like we're going to tightly control it.
Right.
You've done something.
Well, that's how it was.
Just the opposite.
2 weeks ago.
Oh.
And I mean, we're talking about.
Oh, this just happened.
Yeah, this is literally happening right now. Before you walked in, I was getting more information on it.
Oh wow! This
shows
is,
like Critical
okay,
Role.
folks. This is news.
Yeah,
so
this is a big deal. This is a big deal.
We just became, all right, big timers.
Half-Watt podcast just turned.
We just turned to a news podcast. Now y'all know. Oh
Yeah.
my God, the Southern's coming out of me.
So like shows like Critical Role did their show, and then they said, hey, we're voice actors, let's do a cartoon.
Okay.
Let's do an episode that's a cartoon. It's going to cost $750,000 to make.
Pocket change from me.
Well, yeah, no, I know. It's super easy. So they said, let's do a Kickstarter. And
which makes sense.
They said, we need $750,000 to make one episode of a show.
How many seconds did that take?
In 3 days, they had $8 million.
Oh my God.
By the end of their campaign, they had almost $12 million. They set a new record, and they said, not only are we making an episode, we're going to do a whole season, of a show.
Yeah.
And before that season was even like fully conceptualized, Amazon bought it. They're like, not only do we want one season, we're buying 2 seasons from you guys. It was that popular.
So do you see how fast that media that has changed? So you're telling me that a month ago this wasn't the case. Right. Now this is the case. Now they've changed their business model.
Well, that's Critical Role. That is a show.
That's okay.
That's taken advantage of the open gaming license.
Right.
So now Wizards has said, hey, everybody, we're updating the OGL 1.0,
Okay.
and it's now the 1.1.
All right.
And in that, all of the work that you do, we own.
Okay.
We can tell you to stop doing it. We can take it and use it in our source books and our adventures to our whim, and you don't have to get paid because we own it. You made it for us under this gaming license.
Under that license.
If you make over $750,000 in a year, you have to start paying us royalties.
Okay.
25% royalties.
Whoa.
And we have the right to change any of these rules as we see fit. So later on down the road, they can make 750,000 go down to 5,000 if they want. And then not only that, but the original open gaming license is now null and void. And anything that was covered under that is now covered under 1.1, and we own all of it.
Oh, no kidding. Oh, so this is going to turn to a...
This is
going to get weird.
The whole community of Wizards of the Coast, or are against Wizards of the Coast, all RPG players, we're all just kind of like, that's bullshit, and we're not going to do that. And now, like, the number one competitor of D&D, which is called Pathfinder, they came out and said, hey, everybody, we have an open gaming license, and it's irrevocable. Like, you can't get rid of it. It's permanent. We're everything that you guys thought was good about D&D, we're actually doing. So come on over to our side. And everyone's giving a big birdie to Wizards and going over to Pathfinder.
And so this basically just happened.
That statement from Paizo, I don't know how to pronounce it, the company that owns Pathfinder, the competition, that statement came out 3 hours ago. And people are still like,
so that's going to make the news. Really, I mean, I'm sure that's going to make the news.
When Wizards of the Coast bankrupts themselves.
So some lawyer went, oh well, we got to put the kibosh on this. Isn't that weird how when money starts to be involved, immediately out of the woodwork pop up all these legal eagles to go, hey, well, we need our piece of that.
Wizards of the Coast is owned by Hasbro.
Oh,
and so everybody looks at this and goes, it's not the D&D nerds at Wizards that are going, hey, we need more money.
Right.
It's the suits from Hasbro who are like, hey, how come you're letting all these people make stuff and sell it? That's our money. Stop giving our money away. But the biggest problem is they do this 1.1 upgrade and then they're silent. And they're literally just waiting for everyone to chill out before they come back and do it again. And there are employees from Wizards of the Coast that are like putting out a lot of stuff like, hey, we see what this company is doing. They don't care about you at all. They care about the money. They care about the bottom dollar. So it's nuts to see this company just implode on itself because of greed. And this thing that I've been a part of for 20 years, since I was 13 years old, is now like, I kind of hate this.
Gosh, I had no idea.
Yeah.
That's a big damn deal.
Thing. Yeah. Huh. So, Half Watt, we're now going to be just Dungeons and Dragons
Dungeons
news.
and Dragons, and we talk about electricity.
I use a lot of...
Yeah, that's crazy. my head's just kind of... It takes me a second to process some things.
I use a lot of the stuff that I deal with in the field, like when I'm troubleshooting big facilities. I'll take a lot of the experiences I have and I'll change those into a fantasy idea and create little quests and modules out of what I deal with at work.
Well, no kidding. The quest to find a ground fault.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, seriously,
quick, get the die.
If I've had it where like there's lines of magic in a castle that people have to reestablish, and the magic runs one way, and you have to do a whole thing. And
that's funny.
So
it keeps you engaged.
I've had them do troubleshooting in Dungeons and Dragons to reestablish magic way lines.
Well, what if you had students or apprentices that dug it? You could work with them and. Yeah,
I can guarantee you working in this field, I've met so many electricians who are into Dungeons and Dragons and Magic the Gathering. It's Colton. We had Colton on our show.
Colton.
He's one of the biggest Magic the Gathering nerds I've ever met.
Yeah, he's told me a little bit about some of that he was into it, which made sense to me. Because he's very cerebral. He's cerebral guy.
All about.
I don't think that guy. I think he stops thinking about the time he falls asleep, and then his sub processing happens, and then he wakes up with ready to go and start thinking again. Yeah, he never stops thinking.
But yeah, so that's you asked me about my new year. I don't talk about my son, my newborn son, or my wife or anything. I don't talk about Dungeons and Dragons.
The kid learned to walk, but check
this out. He did learn to walk.
See?
It was great.
Told you, big timer.
He's walking away from D&D.
I have to say, the biggest thing that's happened in my New Year's was my better half got a job. She decided to come back to work, and she's working up on the hill with me, and I'm just super thrilled. So that was a complete out of blue, and she did that really because she's like, okay, I need you to be home. Like we need to get through this and pay debt and retire. Like, but if I don't help, then that's just gonna.
Then you're stuck.
I've never had anybody want to spend time with me, so that's kind of odd. I'm like, really? You know who I am, right? Okay.
Have you met me?
Have you met me? Do you know who I am? But I was pretty pleased with that. I was.
Yeah, that's great.
She genuinely, and we bicycled and it's all the stuff that matters to me. She's doing it, and her and I have been into horses and all these other things. So we have this nice balance. So our life is obviously changing, but it's for the better. And I'm pretty pleased with that. So I think that the overall it's going to be a different year for me. Yeah. And still busy, which I always got an oar in the water somewhere. But I can actually kind of theorize that there's a light at the end of the tunnel, and I like that. But it doesn't free up time for writing and stuff like that, because when you talk about writing those things, I would love to write. Yeah. And if I could write well and type well, or at least figure that out, I would write textbooks and trainings or whatever I needed to. But that takes time, and it really takes time without anybody there.
Yeah, you gotta have your space. Every writer has to have their space,
and that's not. That would be something I'd have to do in retirement. Honestly,
like here, at my studio, I thought it was gonna be great. I was like, I'm gonna have a studio. I can go to my studio and write, but I don't, because when I come here, I have to design. I have to do some graphic design. I have to edit a video. I have to do a podcast. I have to set up a meeting with this person.
All this stuff in your inbox.
Yeah. And it's like, I cannot write here because this is my work away from work. You know, I go to work, I'm on a construction site or whatever I'm doing, and I have to focus fully on that, which I get really jealous of my business partner here because he works at a day job where sometimes he can kind of just work on the studio stuff if he wants to.
Yeah. That's a nice thing.
And yeah, he can answer emails and he can do some stuff here and there. And I'm like, yeah, I can't do that, man. I have to make sure that all this stuff is running. I have to make sure this place doesn't burn down, you know?
Yeah, big timer.
So when I get here, everything that I've put off all day is now waiting for me here. Yeah. And so, yeah, I have to find a space to write. And I've actually found that it's close to my wife when she's playing video games and I can sit next to her at our table and I throw on headphones. I'm basically not there, but it's like knowing that she's next to me. For some reason, it pushes me.
So I do that too when I have to write something, because every once in a while I'll have stuff I have to do.
Yeah.
If she's watching TV or something like that, and I'll put sound editing headphones on and crank it out on the computer, and it goes. I blaze right through it. It's also when I'm working on ideas. If I listen to an audiobook, as I like audiobooks, I was doing some programming today, and it's pretty intense programming I was working on. Just for a second, put my audiobook on, 15 seconds of audiobook before I went, this is not working. This book is a terminal list. The book terminal list.
Yeah.
Oh my God. I had no idea. My apprentice, Chris, said, here.
Is that a Tom Clancy one?
No.
Okay.
No, it's.
I just assume every military
SEAL.
sort of thing.
It's a former SEAL that wrote this book. I guess they made a whole series out of it.
Oh, it's a real story.
No, it's a novel.
Oh, okay.
But it is. I've read books that hook you in, the first chapter. Well, this book hooked me, I think, 4 paragraphs in.
Yeah.
I was like, this is going to be. I may be up all night on this. And I mean, other than the fact that the other day when I work on the system, I can't listen to it and like download, even though there's a lot of these dead times, because I'll just get caught up in it. Yeah. And I need to be focused on life safety and not on a book. So I'll put on music or nothing, But I went to program today and I just was like, 15 seconds later, I'm like, this book has got me again. I was listening to it all the way here in the parking lot. And I'm like,
you took a long way here just to get more.
God.
Yeah.
It is. This guy writes so well, and he encapsulates so well that when a writer can write something and describe it in words and you can see it.
Yeah.
I can visualize it in my head. That is a writer that I'll read. And I'll read every book this guy puts out, because everything he does is spot on. He's out of Park City, Utah. So he's a former SEAL, and he's writing, and all of his stuff's had to go through the DOD, so it's all cleared. But it's just...
He wrote like that much into his books that...
Yes. Yeah, any former book any former SEAL. Once you've got the clearances that those guys have when they become operators, they're forever attached to that security clearance, because you don't get that clearance without the information that those guys deal with is so highly classified that you are forever linked to them.
Wow.
Rightfully so, because you're carrying even if you did it 20 years ago or 30 years ago, you're carrying information on. It may not be the information itself, it's how it was obtained.
Sure.
Whether it came from humans, whether it came from satellites, whether it came from drones or, intercepts or whatever it is. And so, and then, how that fits the picture. I've read a lot of books by former SEALs, and they're all, I can't tell you one's better than another, as far as the reality books, the books about what we really did as much as we can tell you,
right.
Like Go Dark 30 and stuff like that. But this book as a work of fiction is hands down just jaw-droppingly good. I mean, and I read a lot of books. Yeah. So, I mean, this is like, wow. I can't recommend it enough. The guy who put it together is just
The Terminal List.
It's called The Terminal List.
And is that the first book in the series, or is that the whole series?
It's the first book in the series. Okay. I guarantee you, if you're like wired like me, you won't. It's 2 o'clock in the morning. I get some sleep. No. I mean, it's good. I mean, it's really well done. And because I was stationed in Coronado, and I was stationed right next to the command he's talking about. So I know.
Really? So
he's talking about the Hotel Dell. I'm like, I've been by the Hotel Dell, and I know that ugly building he's talking about because we saw it too. It overlooked our compound, and when Tactical Deception Group was where it was, and it's no long since gone. But yeah, it was really cool. It's like walking through your own neighborhood and somebody going, "Yeah, I remember that." Remember we used to climb that tree and watch the drive-in, that kind of thing. So it's kind of it's fun. But audiobooks for me have been, I would love to say I listen to podcasts, but as soon as I started this podcast with you, I quit listening to podcasts. And I'm not because I'm a jerk or anything like that, but I had listened to podcasts. I was an early adopter of them. I mean, way early. Like when Mark Maron put out WTF, I was there in the first couple hundred he did. I was there. Stephanie Miller, when she had her podcast, when it started, Rick Emerson here in town, when they all started doing the podcasting, I was like right there in the beginning of these things because I knew that was the answer to the AM radio being
FM, XM, all
being
that
one exact mindset.
Yeah.
And so I needed an outlet that actually, could talk about some diversity. And hard to imagine I would want that. But and so I'd had all these experiences, listening to all these podcasts, and good, bad, and I just rolled them all up and said, okay, I've had enough knowledge now.
Yeah.
I will focus on mine and then go back to reading books. And when I'm not reading books like this, because I don't read novels all that often, I got into physics. And I got into physics actually after we met. Oh my God, I knew I was going to forget. Can be. Oh, come on, it's right in front of me. God, we were even chatting the other day. Anyway,
Paul.
Paul.
Okay.
Yeah, there's this. I was just looking his name up.
Yeah, one of the smartest guys in the entire world.
Because I'm not wise. But and we've kind of texted a little bit back and forth. We just haven't really engaged all that much yet, and it's no fault of his. But I've just I started reading books on physics, and that really opened up my eyes. So I read a couple of them from. I think the Stephen Hawking. I read a couple of his books, and they're okay. But this guy out of Georgia that I found is about nuclear, mostly about nuclear fuel, and he's spectacular. He was a spectacular writer, and so he really, listening to his books, encouraged me to kind of get into that. Yeah. And we have an area up in the hill that where we make isotopes, and the doctor who runs that is. She's been in the industry for, I think, all of her life. So she's been around, high level radiation stuff all of her life. Yeah. And she's like, it's just second nature to her. Just like the guy who wrote that book. I'm like,
sure.
And talking to her and trying to get, how she does what she's doing and get my head wrapped around it. I mentioned this author to her and she goes, oh, he's excellent. I've got a bunch of his books and he's really good. And so, I have found these folks who are physicists to some degree, and she is, who then can talk to me in layman's terms so that I can get my pea brain wrapped around it. Yeah. So now I'm looking at the physics and the math and the calculus that's involved, and I'm trying to go, okay, here's the hill. How does this work? Yeah. And so, I'm starting to work my way into that so I can sort of understand the language of physics and why it's great. And I'm getting drawn kind of towards gravity. The nuclear part's fun and strong and weak nuclear forces I get, but the gravity is the one that I'm really focused on.
Well, yeah,
and it has to do with your damn brother. It was your brother who did this to me.
Cameron?
No. No.
No, the other one.
The other one.
The other one that is
unspeakable one.
He's one of the guys that I've told Randy before. He is like a permanent voice in my head. Whenever I think I'm doing well at something, Randy pops up in my head and makes me doubt all of it.
Yeah, I could say that.
And not even in a bad way. Like, it sounds bad, but it's not. Like, it's in a way of like being humble and being modest and
not being the loudest guy in the room,
right?
At all.
You know, and being someone like he is someone that is able to pinpoint things that are issues that it's like thinking laterally is the only way I can really describe it, because there's thinking forward and you're just kind of pushing ahead with everything, not thinking about everything around you. And then you think backwards and it's like you're reflective, but you're not really paying attention to what's ahead. But thinking laterally is this idea that you can see the world in a different direction than everybody else, and you can point that out. And that's exactly what he does. That's
exactly what it is. I had a discussion with him one time when we were working at Western outside of Crown Plaza in Lake Oswego. And it really opened my eyes to just how bright this guy was. And, you know, we were talking about, he was, at the time we were talking about heads-up displays on aircraft, and when he did that for a living, you know, he just rattles this stuff off. I'm like, damn, man. God, you did what? You worked on what? Well, you know, he's heads-up displays, and, you know, he calibrated them and did all this stuff, too. I've worked on all kind of crap like that. I'm like, damn, man. And so, you know, when his wife got that killer job, and he was like, look, I don't need this job.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I don't need? This job. That's what I'm trying to tell you. And I went, you know, I could totally get that.
Yeah.
I mean, I really get that. You could support your wife. You can do all that good stuff. And he was like, you know, maybe there's a way. And Sean went to bat for him and said, I think that this should be what we do. And I was like, well, that's a stroke of brilliance. I agree with it. You know, and Randy did the same thing, and boom. Now he's doing exactly what he should be doing.
Yep.
You know, was writing codes, and then playing with his kid and dogs. and dogs. And it's like, wow. So he didn't fall into this.
Yeah.
You know, he sort of created that whole area, and now here he is. Being successful, probably one of the top ESD3 programmers there is.
Yeah.
And living life large and doing.
And he thinks he's not a good technician.
And he thinks he's not a good tech.
Yeah, that's the crazy thing about him. He is a little too modest sometimes, but yeah, like he and I'll call him just to check in on him and his son. You know, 15 minutes. I'll tell my wife, 15-minute conversation. 3 hours later, you know, how do you feel about the relativity of morality and, you know, whether our system is just an extension of blah blah blah? And I'm like, how did we get here? How do we get from, hey, how's your son, to you know, smash cut?
He reached out to me and goes, I want you to listen to this podcast. I want you to watch Joe Rogan's podcast.
Yeah.
And with this commander, this Navy guy, and all I want you to do is tell me if you think this guy is full of crap or not. Not Rogan.
No,
I don't care. Rogan is Rogan. Good. Love him, hate him, doesn't matter to me.
You can have your opinion of Rogan.
He's very successful. He's very good at what he does. So, you know, far be it from me to go, well, that's not good when when you're raking in gajillions. But when he interviewed Fravor, I was just like, I listened to this guy and went, yeah, he's the real deal, dude. Absolutely. He's got the lingo down. He's got everything he said was absolutely spot on. And that just opened up freaking Pandora's box.
Because he's talking about these things that are moving, you know.
Yeah. And for those of you who don't know, there's a Joe Rogan podcast. You look it up, Joe Rogan podcast, the Tic Tac videos, and Commander Fravor. This was a Navy commander who was an F-18 wing commander. He talks to Rogan and says, this is what we saw. Then the next flight that went out captured it with infrared and television cameras, and then we have the video of it, the whole 9 yards. And but some of it was released to the public inadvertently or accidentally or whatever. But what was not released was the classified footage that they couldn't release because there's targeting information and stuff that's, you know, it's classified. And that's when he talked about that, it just opened up. I just went, you've got to be kidding me. And then they said, well, yeah, we've been chasing these things on the East Coast for years. Well, the op area that this pilot worked in, I've been in, I conservatively 10, 15, 20 times.
Sure.
Matter of fact, I almost died there off the Truxton, so I know it real well.
Yeah.
I mean, it was an op area you all go to when you're out of San Diego. You got that. Where are you going? I don't know. Ensenada. So, but this really is honestly probably the best video, and that on the East Coast stuff is the best footage of something that is entirely not of this world.
Yeah.
It is absolutely not of this place. And it's not a drone. It's not some DOD experiment that somebody did. It's just not. And the physics behind it are why. And then that's what opened up my mind to it was this guy goes, look, I've been flying all my life. And he goes, never in my life has something moved where it didn't have a trail behind it of heat.
Yeah.
It didn't have any heat. It
there has to be exhaust somehow.
There has to be exhaust. I don't care what it is. I don't care. Nothing moves that fast. Nothing moves like this thing moves without leaving something.
Yeah.
And it didn't. And it moved incredibly fast. And then the guys up to Princeton go, yeah, well, this thing comes out of the ocean and goes up to like 90,000 feet, which happens to be 85 to 90,000 feet is about the top end of a Spy 1 radar. Most of those radar systems can only look up so high. They're phased array. You can only bend them up so much. That's pretty damn far.
Yeah.
Okay, I was going to be honest with you. And the OS has said, oh yeah, this thing goes up and just disappears. And then it comes back down again. It's just like, my jaw hit the floor. So then that opened up a whole thing.
Yeah.
And the theory is that this is a gravity drive machine. That's the theory. Because any other theory is you should have, it's either cloaking everything that comes out of it or you can't see it. But if it was like an electromagnetic drive, then there would be other indications, some of which I can't talk about because I know
you'd see the EMP or
you'd see the radio. Yeah, you would see there's emissions that come out of these. That comes out of almost anything that bops around.
Anytime you utilize any sort of fuel, you're going to leave behind some sort
you're
of
gonna
evidence.
Yeah, you're either going to burn fuel and leave something.
Yeah.
If you were able to break lock on an F-18 radar. Now I've dealt with the APG-63 or 66, whatever. I think it was a 66. When I was still in, I did a couple exercises with F-18s on the original F-18. The ones that we had when I was in.
We're talking about planes, right?
Planes, yeah.
You're going right over my head.
That's the ones that's the ones that were replacing the F-14s, so to speak.
For the few people that listen that aren't in the Navy.
Well, hey. So I've done battle with them, electronic battle with them, and won. I mean, they weren't that hard to defeat.
Yeah.
I mean, they just weren't. And we had the right equipment and the right know-how to do what we needed to do. But it wasn't easy, but we did it.
Yeah.
And I can tell you that the original versions of the radars were, like any other radar. You just got to give it what it didn't want to see and you're done. When this thing broke lock on an F-18, what he was flying, the version he's flying, man, that's a lot. Yeah. That's saying something. That's saying something when not only does this thing have no emissions, but you couldn't really keep a lock on it with your radar. You could visually, but you couldn't with your radar, which is one of the targeting methods they use.
Sure.
Okay, well, there's something coming out of it then to do that. There has to be an emanation coming back. There has to be an emission coming back to your system. That messes with it. Yeah, it doesn't happen by thinking.
Yeah.
Okay, so if I'm sweeping you and then you're sending me information back to fool my radar, there's things there. There's information that could be gleaned. Now, I don't know what the hell that is, and the Navy may. I would be shocked if they didn't, but what is it?
Yeah.
And if you've got something that is moving like nothing else, including physically moving in directions and back and forth in ways that you can't physically move.
Yeah.
And there's no contrail, there's no fuel, there's no heat, there's nothing. Okay, all stop. I mean, it's great that there's a lot of other things going on, and I get that, but I want to know what the hell this is.
Yeah.
And I'm baffled by it. Mm-hmm. And I'm certainly not a physicist, and I'm certainly not as bright as these guys.
I was in your class when you started to discover this.
Yeah.
Because you
That's
spent
years
like
ago.
2 weeks in class talking about like all of this stuff. And
some of it turned out to be
we
like,
loved all of it.
but some of it turned out to be kind of, it went down to, you know, I kind of went down a hole with some of it that I went, that's weird.
Yeah.
But okay, I'll just back out of that. But the rest of it is like, I'm still, the back of my mind is still processing what is going on. And gravity is probably the answer. And the best I can tell in what I've learned, and I'm by no means I'm not a mathematician, but I can also visualize what is happening to make flight like that. And the way that would work is if you were opposing gravity. If you were opposite of gravity, then you would slip through it like a pea through a straw. It's just that simple. And then you wouldn't leave a contrail. Now, all you have to do is somehow generate an anti-gravity field, and
enough power to go against the gravity of the entire planet.
But if you get into the physics of it, and especially into the quantum physics of how they're doing it, like I had no idea gravity had a speed.
Yeah.
Like I had no idea that. I just assumed that gravity was the same everywhere, all the way.
Right.
Oh, no. It bends time and all that good stuff. Oh, okay, I get it. Okay, maybe. So I study Einstein stuff, listen to Hawking, listen to some of these other physicists that discuss it, and kind of, when I learn something, I go into it, I look at it, I look at what's overwhelming.
Yeah.
It's just like any other technical problem. I look at what's overwhelming and I go, okay, well, this I can solve, this I have no bloody clue.
Right.
Back out, go do something else, let my brain rest, come back into it again, and when I'm ready, I'll pick it up. That's why it's taken 2 or 3 years to get this far, because I've looked at it from all these different angles.
Yeah.
And I never stop looking at stuff like this. And I'm going to take a quick side note. We had a problem with a device at work. Okay, a fire alarm device at work. Then it went crazy. It just went nuts. What's a heat detector? Went nuts. We said, oh my God, the world's coming undone. Call the fire department. So we went, oh, that's weird. So we disabled the point, and I went out there and I shifted
Check the device.
Bad heat detector. Put another one in. All right, that still says it's 9 million degrees. Okay. So instead of following back on all the troubleshooting and all the skill sets I have, I continued to what we call shotgun pieces into this problem. I'm like, man, this is really bizarre. Now the problem's escalated to this point where it's got anti-gravity drive because I can't solve the goddamn thing. And so my apprentice and another journeyman went out, and they swapped out parts that we thought could be given us this grief. And at the simplest solutions, Occam razor, the simplest solution was, did you really gather all the information, or did you just think that you had it all? And I said, had enough of this device. I'm going to change its address. So I dropped the program in there and moved it to a different address. Started the node back up, and it went, hey, that address you just reprogrammed? It's still talking. And my jaw hit the floor. I went, so there's another device out there. See, that confirms it. That's the problem. There's something else out there talking, and we haven't seen it. It breaks all the laws of physics. It breaks all the laws of this system.
Yeah.
And somehow I missed it. And I sat and I left, and we made sure the system was safe. And I went home that night and I thought about it. And I woke up the next morning and I went, you idiot. You goddamn idiot. God damn it. And I walked up and looked at it and went, no. The problem is it's the wrong device. It's the one to the left of it. Honest to God. And I walked up and went, pop, yep, there's the address. And so because the graphics were swapped.
Yeah.
So here's the chain of events. This is 1 and that's 2, but someone programmed this is 2 and that is 1.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
And so Mike walks up and goes, well, the graphics said it's the one on the right, so it's the one on the right. Keeps going into alarm.
Yeah, because you're working on EST or whatever.
Simplex system.
That has like a map of...
No. It just, we graphically put it on the graphics to show you a smoke detector here, heat detector there, pull station there on a map.
Okay.
Well, it says that that's the one. No, at no point in time did I do the basic thing that any good technician would do, which is to, hey, idiot boy, did you see if that's the device that you're talking about? Maybe the picture is wrong. Maybe this is downstairs in a mop closet, and not here in front of this. Did you ever do no, because man, I'm super good, man. You know, I'm reading books on physics. I know it all. So we spend all this time shotgunning and going different directions, and then I finally go, holy crap, there it is. Yeah. So, okay, 10 minutes later, the problem's solved, right? Mm-hmm. So no harm, no foul. Immediately grab every player involved and go, I want you to see what happens when you take the training wheels off of me and I'm not thinking clearly. Mm-hmm. Then, I can ride this thing. I can ride this Segway. I know what I'm doing. Crash. All the basic steps I've taught people for all my career on how to do. I just skipped over all of them.
Yeah.
But what? Like I'm the big fish. I'm the big catfish in the bowl. I don't need any of that stuff. I taught all
you
those
know what
people.
you're doing.
Shit,
yeah.
Man.
I
just got my ass completely handed to me, and it was so humbling to go. You know, did you work on the one to the left? I asked my apprentice, did you ever see the one on the left? He goes, no, man. I said, that's the one that did it. He went, what? And I went, yeah. I completely missed it. He goes, oh, crap, I didn't think of that either. Well, you didn't think of that. This is my job to think of that. It's your job to learn from me. I'm the one teaching you. So, but I immediately go, hey, this is it. This is what we did wrong.
Yeah.
This is, we win some, we lose some. But the worst thing to do is to go, oh, well, yeah, it was just a fluke, I don't know how it happened.
Right.
As you're switching out the thing and trying to hide it. Don't hide your mistakes.
Yeah.
Publish learn from them. Tell the people around you so that they go, wow, well, I don't want to do that again. It's not the only one you're ever going to make. And it's not the end of the damn world, okay? But that lesson, I said, okay, the next time I have that, first thing we're going to do, and every time we're going to do that's double check their addressing. Mm-hmm. Just double check the addressing. Because because we think it's something, especially when it came back up again, that should have been my clue.
Yeah.
Was that you missed something super simple. Occam's razor.
Yeah.
So
I've been dealing with
technical expertise in there.
I've been dealing with Fahrenheit panels.
I'm sorry.
A Fahrenheit panel that I installed at a place, and
like a 1,000 or 2?
I don't know. Okay. I don't know off the top of my head, to be honest. I don't deal with Fahrenheit too much. I usually do like Silent Night stuff, which is basically the same thing.
No, yeah, but there's some proprietary stuff in the Fahrenheit that's not in the Silent Night.
I learned that when I hooked up my my laptop to do programming. And it's like, hey, just so you're aware, you're not licensed to work on this. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, what the? It's the same. Yeah. It's the same program.
Yeah.
Well, it's the same program, but you have to have a license.
You have to have it's the key for HFSS for Fahrenheit. Yeah.
So I have to call someone else out to come work on it, and he does the work. He programs it. I'm not even there that day. I'm somewhere else doing something else. He programs it. I come back a week later and I would start finishing everything out. And I'm running into issues left and right. Mm-hmm. Like this isn't showing up. That's wrong. This is missing. This is a double address. And I'm like, bro, you've been doing this 10 times as long as me. What happened? And so I call him like every day. I'm calling him like, hey, did you do this in programming? Mm-hmm. And he has to open up his laptop, check it and look. And most of the time he's clear. And it's like these little things that either I forgot or is something weird in the field. So I'm like, all right, man, I'm going to get you one of these days. It's going to be your fault one of these days. And
I'll get you, man.
Yeah. Everything ends up being clear. We figured most of the stuff out. It was really dumb stuff. And yesterday, I was trying to get this thing connected to a that was my phone. Connected to a communicator, so that it communicates properly. Mm-hmm. And it's just I don't have a program for it. Mm-hmm. I can't do programming except through the keypad, which is extremely limited. Ooh, yeah. And I decide, okay, I need, at the very least, I'm going to do hard zones with an AES radio. Okay. Just do simple. I've got 2 relays and a treble relay on the Fahrenheit. I'll connect it to relay 1, which should be he should have programmed that to be an alarm relay. So if it throws an alarm, that relay changes.
See, if he's got a built-in dialer, he may not even thought about that. So it might be easier to just go with the data capture card. Maybe, but that's okay.
But so I connect my thing and I pull an alarm and nothing changes. I'm looking at my history of everything being monitored. Nothing changes. I'm like, what's going on? I switch over to relay 2. Maybe he programmed relay 2 to be alarm. So I reset, pull the alarm, nothing changes. I'm like, what's going on? I swap around a few things and I don't know what's wrong. So I go, it's his programming. So I call him up. Hey man, I got it. I figured it out. I found it. You messed up the relay. He's like, all right. He pulls up his laptop. Nope. Relay 1 is set for alarm. It is mapped. It's set. It's ready to go. I'm like, that's BS. I did it. And he's like, I don't know what to tell you. This is the program. So I go and undo all the wires on the relay. I kind of clean them up, make sure that they're good, put them back in. I go over to the radio and I pull them off of the terminals on the radio, clean them up, put them back on, set off an alarm. It sends the signal. And so today I was talking to him because I did find something he did wrong. Finally, I was like, I figured it out. He's like, bullshit. And I was like, you didn't set the synchronization on the strobes properly. And he's like, okay, I'll check. And he checks. He didn't do it. And I was like, all right, I got you finally at the end. But I was like, I still honestly don't know what was wrong with that relay because I had taken them off and put them back on. The relay or the terminals on the radio were okay. They weren't bad. The only thing I can say is the wiring was somehow messed up, but it didn't, all of the tests didn't make sense for what ended up being the solution. I'm using air quotes. So it's stuff like that where like I constantly, I'm okay with owning up to my mistakes, but it's when I can't own up to my mistake. Right. That's what bothers me the most. Yeah. Because I want to say,
and it eats
I learned my lesson.
A lot of technicians. It eats a lot of technicians. I mean, and it eats all of us when we just go, I got this figured out. This is easy. And then, and that's exactly what ate me here. Oh, a false alarm. Okay. Hey, you know how many false alarms I got to deal with up here? That's nothing. There's nothing. This is the easy stuff. Yeah. I mean, it's not. You have to approach every single problem as though, from a fresh perspective. And if you come in with stuff on your mind, or you're just not playing your A game in life safety, it can get expensive. The good news is that with stuff we had, and we're always fixing stuff. It's just a matter of what we're fixing today and when and how and where. But it's just that whole, you want to be the most efficient you can be. You want to be good at what you're doing. Yeah. You don't want to have egg on your face. You don't want to have false alarms. You don't want to call the fire department. You don't want to have all this stuff happen. You don't want to inconvenience people. I mean, they did dump a building and people standing out there going, what the hell's going on, man? It's cold out here. So the other problem I had, I told you about earlier, I don't really want to get into, but that was some technical malfeasance happening. Yeah. And when we, just to allude to it, we had a snafu on some programming, and we figured it out. But if it hadn't been for some people really thinking, including my contact at Simplex, the guy I work with at Simplex is freaking brilliant. He came and handed me, by the way, those memory chips I needed, brand new. So we knew we had good ones if we needed them, and it has to do with putting program on a burning program on a chip. But we, I think I was so focused on that problem, that when this little tiny problem come over here, I just went, it's. I'll fix that with my elbows. As I'm showing off my major skills over here, I'll just completely botch this thing over here, and that's what gets us. It's just it's arrogance and being pompous and just not using your brain.
I think I've noticed a huge shift in my company as far as, or in my department as far as some of the leadership that we have and the management that we have.
Mm-hmm.
And coming back into the new year, I'm a lot more confident in what I'm doing, a lot more relaxed in what I'm doing. And a lot of that is because of the people that are supporting me from the office.
Mm-hmm.
And I've realized how important that is, because before I would have been dealing with this Fahrenheit thing, and really it was like 4 or 5 problems that you break down. It's 4 or 5 problems. It seems like more, but it's not. And I would have been so stressed out. Mm-hmm. Because it's like there's not a ton of communication. I need to get this done so I can move on to something else, or I need, they're expecting certain things from me. And being able to have the support from the office mm-hmm. is really huge, of being able to go, okay, take a deep breath, chill out for a second. And, I used it as a learning experience for my apprentice, and
Good.
Basically said, go figure this out. Yeah. And he did, and he told me later, he's like, it's weird every time I'm with everybody else. It's hard. They have a hard time teaching me things, because we have so much that we just need to get done.
Right.
And then almost nobody, he's like, some of our employees will say this, I want you to figure this out. I want you to fix this. Here's how you do that. Mm-hmm. And then they basically do it. And then I just kind of come in at the end and do the little bit. He's like, but you straight up were like, hey, I need you to go fix this. And then you left.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And
which
you left me to do it.
Which forced him to go and figure it out.
And he's like, no one's ever done that.
Yeah.
And I was like, yeah, I was hungry. I wanted to go take a bite of my sandwich, man. Like I was
on the other side of the wall.
Yeah.
You fix this and let me know.
He thinks I'm off fixing something else. I'm like, nah, man, I went and took a break.
Doritos.
I trusted you to just figure it out. And it wasn't, it's not it wasn't the craziest risk to just let him go play with a meter and mm-hmm. test tone out some stuff.
I think it's good for student or for apprentices to get that time where if they have their work alone card, it's like, at this point they should be able to work on their own and to do their own thing, because they're about ready to turn out, kind of a thing.
Yeah, absolutely.
And if you got it,
and he's in that place where he's about to turn out. Yeah. It's like, how do you not have some alone time before you're a journeyman?
Because what happens when you do turn out and you've never been alone?
Yeah, you're gonna mess up all the time because you don't have someone there to be your net. Yep. And that's what happened to me when I journeyed out. I had almost zero alone time. And luckily, my management was able to kind of give me a kind of a running start on stuff. They put me on some inspections and mm-hmm. got me familiar with just being alone, mm-hmm. and literally the very first inspection I did by myself, I called the fire department. The very first thing I did, because the guy that they sent me to go inspect with, like the manager of this mm-hmm. property, was like so gung-ho. And he was like pointing all these things out, and I'm like, oh, okay, I'm taking notes and all this stuff, and I'm like, okay, we gotta get that. Oh yeah, we gotta go. And then he's like, all right, yeah. So whenever you're ready, go ahead. And I was like, okay, great. And I pull the notification off, because all we want to do is test, the pull stations or whatever. I pull the notification off, and then I go, okay, you ready? And he's like, yeah, I'm ready. I'm like, great. And I pull the pull station.
That part worked.
Yeah, the system went into alarm. Yep. It was silent. Never put it in test.
Yeah, I like that. I like that sound when you're sitting there and you hear this from a couple blocks away. You go, God, I think they're coming for me. I think that's coming for me. And I look over at the manager. Did you put this thing in test? I did. Something's wrong.
Yeah.
And sure enough, I was getting closer, and here they come down the street, and it's like, hold on, I gotta go. Hi. Yeah. Totes me.
I've straight up. I did one job where I was just inspecting something, and I put my meter on a flow.
Yeah, and it
to check the resistor, and activated the flow.
Yeah.
And so I called.
If your meter is too low in impedance, it'll do that.
Yeah.
Especially if it's a good meter, it won't. But sometimes, or you have it in the wrong mode. If you're like checking amps.
Yeah.
And you happen to go across something and you don't think about it, I
climb down, I go silence the panel, and then I call the manager. I'm like, hey, you want to put this system in test probably. Like, really? Like, yeah. And I go stand outside, and I watch the fire truck coming all the way down the road, and then the manager calls me back, and she's like, hey, I let them know. I was like, all right, just so you know, they're coming. All of a sudden, they just do this big U-turn and just drive off. And I'm like,
they flip you the bird. Hey, thanks a lot.
I'm just like waving out. I'm like, see you guys later.
Got a croissant in one hand and a cup of coffee in the other. I felt so bad. Every time I've called the fire department, I feel so bad. I'm like, oh my God, you guys have enough crap going on. Sorry to make your... Mostly they're pretty good about it. I mean, I jumped on a cab of 100 fire trucks going, well, you knew when we were like doing this and they told me this and we put it... My favorite is I had an account one time when I worked at Western that was absolutely bizarre. It was a federal account. It was up in Vancouver, and they kept fire department kept being called there, and I mean like a lot of times. And so they said, look, we've sent a couple texts here. We're going to send you, and we'll see what you can do. So I show up and I had my thinking cap on, and I ran through the history logs, and this thing had been as quiet as a church mouse, 5820, quiet as a church mouse, Silent Night 5820, nothing, just solid as a rock.
It's got no alarms on.
It's got no alarms, no history of an alarm, nothing. So I said, okay, well, it can't be the panel. I mean, the panel's just not. It's just the dialer just isn't sending out. I'm bored. I think I'll call the fire department. So and the folks there, the security staff there, were like, yeah, this thing's becoming annoying. Like they keep showing up, and
this is in Washington.
Yeah, it's a.
They're not showing up every 12 hours, are they?
No, but they were showing up enough that everybody.
It was getting bad.
It was getting bad. Yeah. And honestly, there's what are you going to find the feds? All right.
Yeah.
Well, you owe us $500. Sure, you bet.
Okay.
Ask the IRS. They're the ones that own this place. So anyway, I called up the monitoring service and I'm like, hey, what are you seeing on this thing? Like, what's the caller ID coming in? Oh, yeah. Colorado. Like Steamboat Springs, Colorado. I said, so an account in Steamboat Springs, Colorado is calling and telling you that an account in Vancouver, Washington, is, is in alarm. And the guy goes, yeah. And he's looking at it and, and he's going, these are door open and door closed codes. I said, what? I said, that's bizarre. What is going on? And so he does some research. It was our own monitoring service. And he gets hold of me. He goes, yeah. He goes, this had nothing to do with fire, man. This is a security system, and it's showing us secure, unsecure, open door, open window, closed windows. And so it turned out to be that a condo association had a whole bunch of condos in Steamboat Springs, Colorado, and they put DSL in, and the modems were not really connecting through that DSL the right way. Like there's a lot of information that has to get passed.
Sure.
And if you digitize it and then undigitize it, it loses something in the translation, and it was losing things in the translation. So I call up our branch that handled them, and the technician said, oh, that's my account. I know all about it. We just did a whole bunch of stuff there. And I says, well, this thing's doing this. He goes, you got to be kidding me. So he starts to research it, and he's right on his game. I mean, he's right. Those guys at Western States were really smart, man. They were right on the game. He goes, yeah, DSL filters, and he starts rattling all this stuff that was wrong. So he's like, is there any chance that we could change the account in Vancouver until I can get this solved?
So real quick, the account in Vancouver was also running off of IP?
No, it was just dial-up. Just POTS. And the Steamboat Springs was. And what they had happened is that they had changed their phone system to a different PBX.
Okay.
And their security system was going across that. and it was not translating correctly. And so what was coming into the receiver at the company we were using was it was identifying itself as an account number wrongly. So everything was right. It had the right account numbers programmed in.
Crazy.
But the way it was appearing to the modem is
Yeah.
it was trying to make a snap decision, and it went, well, this is account 1234 in Vancouver, not 1235 in Steamboat Springs. And then it said, okay, door open. So those codes were coming through perfect. But the account, by that point, the receiver has already sent the information to the computer, and the computer's going, okay, well, this is the Vancouver account, and door open code is nothing on my list because all we're sending is, 4+2, or whatever it was, and they're like, door open is it's an unassigned or an unknown
if you're
account.
doing 4+2, almost everything is alarm if it's not.
If you're doing a
specifically
fire, any fire code, if it's not understood by the receiver, it goes, I'm on fire.
Yeah.
And so the first thing we had to do was tell the monitoring company to take all the codes that were not associated with fire, all the door open and door close codes, and just ignore them.
Yeah.
So that's what we did first. First, we started to button down. We said, look, the only codes you're going to get from this fire panel are
Right.
That's it. Just define those. Anything that's undefined, don't roll trucks on. And that was the first step. And then they fixed that. And then the technician with the Steamboat Springs said, hey, man, we got some problems. And he went through and he fixed his end. And in about a week, it was done.
Yeah.
Not even that. It was probably about 3 days. And I'm really impressed with the guy in Colorado. And Western States is a huge deal there,
sure,
just like they are out here. So it was like, and I got done it, and then I had to explain all this to the feds up there. They're like, what happened? And then we said, yeah, their initial thing was we could just easily change your account number to something else because it only take a couple seconds. And they said, no.
This is our account.
We have a contract. I said, okay, man, I'm sorry. So I mean to blow your bubble here, but it's a simple, quick fix. We'll just change your account to something else. It doesn't matter. We're just going to move all the data over, and no, we're the U.S. government. You ain't doing that in no government account. I got a gun. Okay,
I think next time you and I do a round table together, I want to hear about some of the craziest places you've gone into, because I've only been doing this for now as a journeyman 1 year.
What?
Yeah.
Big timer.
And I've racked up a lot of mistakes.
Everybody does.
But
I have a whole wagon full of them if you'd like some.
But
if you need some spares.
But I've seen some cool places, some weird places too. Yeah. And I think I'd like to do an episode where I get to hear some of the weirdest
I would
places.
love that. I will tell you though that with AES radios, that has been a real game changer. It has been a real game changer in how we report stuff.
Oh yeah.
Man.
Oh, absolutely.
What an absolute treat it is. It is so blazing fast. And IP dialers are the same thing. Mm-hmm. But it is so fast.
Yep.
It is so fast, in fact, that I made some programming changes so that when my inspectors are testing, they can watch a point on the graphics system, put the system in, fire the system off, let it go through to the radio, let the radio do its business, and then watch it on their app on their phone. So our guys can watch it go all the way through.
That's exactly what I do. Yeah.
So when the red light comes on, it says fire alarm. It says fire alarm on the what we call a TSW, which is a computer. When it says fire alarm, go. Mm-hmm. Start your timer. When you see it come on the app, that's how fast it got that code there. Because in healthcare, it's critical to know how long from the time you hit it until the time you see it. And it is so blazing fast. It's like, we may have to do that again. I don't know. It's like, it's immediate, man. And it's like, it's so neat to not have that, the whole process of dialing and you go along, here comes another bit. It's like, and not to knock POTS lines and all that stuff, but the whole process now, the technology and adding radios and the radios
and
are telling
cell and IP and all of that. It's
in the new
crazy.
cell. I had a guy in my class last term. He was in my specialized controls class. Said, "Have you seen one of these?" And he shows me the newest Cellcom because I don't see that kind of technology.
Oh, really?
I'm out of the loop.
I do. I mostly do like Starlink, NAPCO Starlink cells is what I install.
There's another one that he showed me, and I've got it in my phone, and it was jaw dropping how how it worked. And he goes, yeah, this is all UL approved, easy to install, easy to program.
Easy. Very easy.
Yeah. You're just like, it's just, and I sent my buddy, I've got a buddy that isn't in the business, but he's a CAD guy. The newest thing, which is a drone that flies through your house.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's is it ADT it's doing it, or
I don't know.
one of the big security companies, one of the big home security companies. So you leave home. I'm not lying.
Wait,
don't do this if you have a cat.
You're saying it. I thought you were talking about just something that just flies. You're saying this is like a guard drone?
Yes. It's a guard. Not it's going to shoot you. It doesn't have laser beams.
Obviously not that. Yeah.
Not yet, but
a little taser on it.
I just sent it to him. You look at it on my phone. I said, look at this. You leave home and this thing turns itself on, flies out of its cradle, and flies around your house.
That's
on patrol.
Insane.
Yeah. All you need to defeat that
man,
is my
here.
Cat.
Yeah. Yeah.
My cat
you said you have a video of that?
Yeah, it's right here.
Like a YouTube video?
It's just it was a commercial.
If you can get me a link to that, let's try and get that in our description so people can go and check that out, because that's super cool.
It was pretty. I said this is. I send him stuff all the time, but I'll look at it.
Yeah.
And,
we'll try and get that on the description. I
sat back and I said I knew it was coming at some point, because I know that I've seen the robot ones that, they don't look very intimidating. Whatever. That they can. It's like the vacuum cleaner thing.
Yeah, the Roomba type.
The Roomba.
Yeah.
Right. Have you seen the Roomba where the kid reprograms every time it bumps into a wall it swears? Oh my God, dude.
What?
Oh my God, the kid, when I was a kid doing electronics, I was through the whole soldering. Look what I can do, Dad. I can solder my resistors together.
Yeah.
Ooh. No, nowadays, I'm not lying to you. Nowadays, the people doing the hobby are getting into with PIC controllers and getting into the minutia how the thing works. So this kid hacked his Roomba, his mom's Roomba probably, and programmed it so every time it bumps into the wall, it swears. I just fell over, man. I just said, no, that I got to hire that kid. That's who I want working for me. I want somebody who will do that. We had a guy working for us that we swore up and down we were going to program. We were going to put a PIR in his office, because every time he was in his office, he would complain about the fire panel making noise every single time. And most of our fire panels don't make noise. They come up, but we shut the PCOs off because we don't need them because we have a network.
Sure.
Except this one. This one I just discovered the fact I was in the other day. I'm like, man, this thing sure is beeping a lot. So the programming that is inherent in all of them just isn't in this one. So I just fixed it. But whatever reason, it's called inhibit PCO wasn't on.
Yeah.
And so the thing comes up and goes, oh, that should be off. Shuts it off, because all that data are going across the network. So you don't need it on. That's why this guy's complaining all the time. So he's sitting here trying to do his work at the panels. Anytime anything happens, matter of fact, you could tie everything to the network to it. So you could say anything on the network that goes into trouble or alarm or supervisory, beep the PCO if you want, which is probably where we were at with this guy. But he was totes right. He was like, yeah. So it does not ever shut off. It always is going off. And he's right. It is always going off. I sat in there with it the other day for like 10 minutes, and this thing wouldn't shut up.
Yeah.
I took to stab it with my screwdriver, but no, but those are the kind of practical jokes that would be kind of.
Oh yeah.
When
I did training with
system, but you could do it with something else.
I did Silent Night training with their I think their 6000 series, where you can do the voice evac stuff.
Yeah. And you can add your own WAV files in.
You customizable, and one of them had already been built by someone.
Beautiful.
And they pressed activate, and instead of it doing, please exit the building, right? It was, move, bitch, get out the way. And the whole, like this really quiet hotel room, it's like, it just blaring this music. It was great. I loved it.
We have a beep on our computers where we can just put a WAV file. And when we put the new computer in, we said, well, let's just use a WAV file instead. So the WAV file I put as a test WAV file is something like from Ren and Stampede. You know, you idiot, like that is just screaming, you blithering brain cramp, you blithering brain cramp. You can just get it to send out the same thing over and over again. And I said, oh, you've got to let me do this because I could just set this whole series of WAV files in here, and they're like, not only no, but hell no, are you not putting your WAV files on these computers? I'm like, no, let me do it.
We know the guy that programmed the evacuation messages for the airport.
Yes, we do.
And he used his wife.
Oh, did he really?
Yeah. So if you're listening to, if you
I did
hear
not know
that ever
that's
at the
a
airport,
stroke
that's
of brilliance.
her.
Yeah, well, that's good. Yeah, I mean, it's
honestly,
really all it is somebody going.
I thought it'd be cool. I don't know how much need there is of it, but we have a professional studio here. So, like, if there's ever a need for that, where a company needs someone to record messages to put into those things, I want to be the people that do that.
Here's what I would like us to do. Now, we'll get serious here. I know it's roundtable, but what would be really cool, honestly, is to record them in languages that people need. Because, honest to God, when you're in Southern California, you'll hear a voice evac system in English and Spanish. But here, it could be English, Spanish, Russian.
That's a big one.
You know,
Korean.
Korean is there's like always other Chinese. There's always other languages. I don't want it to run through the whole gambit. But that's why I always said that the reader boards would be a perfect solution to that, because you could put in English. You could say in English, hey, let's evacuate the building, match that on the reader board, and then flip it over to Vietnamese, and flip it over to Russian, and flip it over to Spanish. Because there are a lot of folks who just don't speak our language. And I think that a system that is utilitarian, like a fire system, should encompass as many cultures as you can.
Sure.
But wouldn't that be cool to sit here
cool.
and have, I need a Russian speaker to come in and speak it in Russian. I need somebody to keep speaking it.
Unfortunately, I couldn't quality control it, right? Because I don't speak Russian.
You don't know what they'd say.
I'd be hoping they're not saying some terrible things.
That's true. Leave fish in the stairwells. Leave fish in the stairwells. I don't like these people. That would be funny. But it would be, there's that fun time. Like, we love to do practical jokes, and we have seen. I mean, my first trip up on the hill, I was the king of practical. I'll leave us on this. I had a boss a manager who, like me, when he was in management, seemed like a really good idea until you're like 5 or 6 years down the road, and then you're going, why exactly am I doing this to myself? But he was able to navigate it successfully. I was just like, I think I need a lobotomy to make me happy. So, or maybe if you could just maybe put an ice pick in my eyeball like they did back in the 40s. But he went on vacation, and I was going on vacation right when he came back. And we had these doors with the glass, like they're wooden frame doors, but there's a piece of glass in the middle of them so you can see what's going on. And they've got, you could drop a thing down. So we taped plastic to the back of the door, and we filled it all the way to the top with peanuts, with shipping peanuts. Okay. And then I put a piece of cardboard across the top of it. And then we spread the peanuts out across the cardboard. So he was gone for like 2 weeks. So it took us a while to set this up. Me and the guy text all the time. And so when you got on your tippy toes, he was a pretty tall guy, but when you got up on your toes and you looked, all you could see was more peanuts. Right. Because the shelf that we built was probably 2 feet long, and it was completely packed full of punch. Then we wedged the door from the outside. We called him Chod. The state fire marshal called anything that was a wedge for a door a combustible hold open device. So we put a Chod on the door, so the door would open up about that far, about a half an inch. You could close the door and knock it out with a screwdriver to open the door. Yeah. But that's not what we wanted to happen. We closed all of his blinds, and I put peanuts up against the blinds, and it showed that it was bulging up against the blinds. And then I went on vacation. I'm not lying to you. Bill Batayev, you were welcome to come kick my butt, my brother. In N7CRF, he was the guy who got me on ham radio. So he comes in. He comes in after a couple of days. I'm going to start laughing. He comes in, and Eric describes, my buddy Eric says, oh my God, he came and he walked about halfway down the hall. He just went, oh shit. He just he said left. And they all were worried because they thought, oh my God. I mean, he hadn't been there, and that he was just going to like drive home once I'm done.
Yeah.
So he goes and gets a cup of coffee, comes back in his office, and he's just like, he opens up the door. It's just nothing's working. He's just like, oh shit, I gotta get these peanuts out of here. And nobody can keep a straight face. Right. Everybody is just dying. And I had done so many practical jokes on so many people in that place and been the recipient of them myself.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, I wasn't alone. That finally Eric just said, hey man, so like he knocks the chot out, opens up nothing in there but just space. And oh my God. And when I came back the next week, I felt like when I came through the door, he just looked at me, he goes, that was funny. He goes, that was classic, dude. That was really, really classic.
It's fun because it's like
nobody
got hurt. Yeah. Right. And you didn't actually fill his office,
all deception.
Yeah. It's that moment of, oh,
I would have paid.
That's great.
I would have paid money to have seen his reaction. I wish we had recorded it.
Yeah.
And we the only other one we did that was funnier than that, we had a guy who was a real loud, cantankerous person.
Yeah.
They had bought a big boiler from a company back east. Mm-hmm. And when they shipped it, they rolled it in on a lowboy. And then they were going to roll it in the room, so they have to take the whole wall out and roll this thing in. It's a whole process, right? It's a big machine. While it's sitting out there, half the guys that worked in this boiler plant were boiler makers or boiler fitters or had worked in that field. So they were raised around this thing. Matter of fact, the guy who runs the show still made boilers for years. So that thing got off the truck, and the truck driver left, and they already had it open and they were in it. Mm-hmm. Oh, this is wrong and that's wrong, and here's a glove in the mud drum, and here's all this stuff. They're getting all pissed off, and so they really made the company come out and fix a bunch of stuff, and they made them do an extended warranty on it because they found all these problems, and it's a really high performing machine. So it was just a matter of everybody making it right, and there was a couple of mistakes. The owner of the company flies out from the East Coast. And we know he's on his way.
Yeah.
And so my buddy Eric, who was this CAD guy, plotted a Harbor Freight Tools sign, the same size as the sign on the side of the boiler. And we taped it on the damn boiler minutes before the CEO or the owner of the company was coming through. And the guy who was running that boiler floor caught us, like right after we got it up.
Yeah.
Yeah. And he's a ex-Navy guy like me. And because he's an engineer, they're snipes, and because I was a electronics guy, we're called Twidgets. And he knew it was me. Yeah. I mean, he knew it was going to be me and Eric, and we're the two that were, that guy. I didn't think anybody could scream that loud and be heard above 93 decibels of boiler running. But he managed to do that. You damn Twidgets, I'm going to kill you. Get that son of a boiler. And he was just, God, I thought he was going to have a coronary, man. And we were laughing so hard.
Yeah.
I mean, my stomach hurts just thinking about it. Some of the jokes we pulled with this guy, but that was it, man.
Yeah.
And man, they got that sign off, and the dude walked in and nothing.
Yeah.
Everything was clean, and Eric and I were just, I mean, our cheeks hurt. We laughed so hard. Oh my God. Anyway. Practical jokes are fun, kids.
As long as no one gets hurt.
As long as nobody gets hurt.
That's my
I didn't get shot, which could have happened.
Came close. I do next time we do a round table. Yeah. I think I like doing round tables with you. I feel like it's a fun time to kind of go back and forth. Next time, I definitely want to talk about weird places you've been.
Places I've been.
Secret places you're probably not allowed to talk about, sort of things. Okay. If you can get away with it.
Sure.
Audience, listeners, if you have a story or a place that you've been to that's pretty interesting, write in and tell us about it, and we'll try and read it on that episode. You can email us halfwattpod@gmail.com
nice.
and send that to us, and we can talk about all the weird, creepy places, off-putting, secret UFO bases you guys have worked at.
Have you seen some creeper stuff here, Mike? Hey, Mr. Mackey. Hey, let's do the Mr. Mackey voice. Has anybody seen a marijuana, Mr. Mackey? I don't know, Mr. Mackey.
Thanks for listening to the Half Watt Podcast. We always want to hear from you, and we encourage you to email us at halfwattpod@gmail.com with questions or even your own stories. funny, crazy, or praiseworthy. We want to hear it all. You can follow us on Instagram at Halfwattpod to stay up to date on our feed. And be sure to subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts. And share us with a friend, the best way to help us grow. The Half Watt Podcast is a production of Now Hear This Studios.